You may have the plants that you need to meet your first aid needs just growing right in your own yard. Today we're talking with Doc Jones about some of the herbal remedies that can fix all kinds of little emergencies. This is something every prepper needs. Hey, Provident Preppers, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Colleen, and today I am thrilled because our special guest is Dr. Patrick Jones from the Homegrown School of Botanical Medicine, of which I am a student, and I am learning all kinds of fabulous things. And I have become a huge fan of Dr. Jones over the years. So for me personally, this is a fantastic honor. But Dr. Jones, if you would just take a minute, and for those in our audience that don't know you, why don't you introduce yourself and what you do?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm really happy to be here and get to powwow with you guys a little bit. This will be fun. So I'm Patrick Jones. I've been a veterinarian for over 30 years. I'm also a traditional naturopath. I went to naturopath school. And so I had a veterinary practice and I had a people practice. And so if you're a dog, we'd send you to one building. And if you're just sick as a dog, we'd send you to the other building and we'd work it out one way or the other.
I love it.
Founded the Homegrown Herbalist School of Botanical Medicine years and years ago, and we've got students all over the world, and we're trying to help folks learn how to take care of things themselves a little bit.
It is a fantastic class. And then you are also on YouTube. We'll leave a link to your YouTube. So for those of you who aren't in the school, you can still learn an awful lot from Doc Jones. Okay, but today I'd like to talk about something really specific, and that is about meeting the first aid needs of my family with just things that I can grow in my own backyard. So let's pretend for a second that I'm a prepper and that I'm wanting to be as self-reliant as possible. What plants would you recommend that I grow, and how would I use them to take care of my family?
Well, I think the first thing for that is to decide what your family needs, because everybody's different and they have different health issues. If you have somebody with lots of allergies, you're going to want to have some things for that. If you have somebody that has lots of digestive issues, you're going to want some things for that. So there's a little bit of variability there. As far as basic first aid things, that's pretty easy because we all have sort of the same needs that way. But I don't know. Why don't you rattle off some things you want to fix, and I'll tell you what to plant.
So let's talk about basic lacerations.
Okay. So cuts and wounds. I like calendula. That's a fantastic, pretty little flower, Calendula officinalis. It's a really good antibiotic, topically and internally. Don't take it if you're pregnant or if you're nursing, but you can use it topically whenever you want. That's a good one for cleaning the wound and for helping with the infection. For healing the wound, comfrey's fantastic. And those are both really easy plants to grow. The calendula is a self-seeding annual, and it'll grow about anywhere. I always kind of joke that for calendula seeds to germinate, they have to be near dirt. So the sidewalk.
It's kind of true.
Yeah.
The sidewalk doesn't count, but the crack between is okay.
There you go. Awesome.
The flowers, the medicine. And then comfrey is a perennial. And I would recommend planting the sterile hybrid version of comfrey, which is, they sometimes call it Bocking 14 or Russian comfrey, because that one won't spread by seed. The seeds are sterile. They took two species. They took a donkey and a horse and they made a mule, so it can't make babies. It'll still spread a little bit by root division. And don't ever rototill it, or you'll have lots of root divisions.
Oh, yeah.
But comfrey is a fantastic plant for accelerating healing. And it also has some anti-inflammatory things for the pain. It's got some mucilage in it, like marshmallow and slippery elm have, that's real soothing to that owie. But just great plants for wounds.
I remember one time when I got a cut and Kylene went and grabbed a plant, stuck it in her mouth, chewed it up, put it on my, it's like, okay.
There you go.
That was one of my introductions to this, and it worked. I mean, it was awesome. It was just like, okay, we don't need to go to the doctor. There are times when a doctor is needed, but So many things can just be fixed if we have the right things hanging around.
He was just a little put off at that. I'm like, oh, hold still. And what I did, it was actually plantain. And if I
Yeah.
remember right, it was like a bee sting, or it was some kind of sting.
I don't remember. I just
Anyway.
remember getting this wad of stuff out of her mouth onto my arm, and okay, well, it worked. So, and she kisses me sometimes, so
Yeah, I was gonna say, you've been
not like-
swapping cooties for years. You're all right.
yeah.
Okay, so that brings up a good point. How do we use it? So we know
Yeah.
that comfrey and calendula are both really good. How do we use them?
So, first of all, in general, for all the herbs, the adult dose for almost everything of a powdered, a dry powdered herb is about a teaspoon, rounded teaspoon for an adult. And if it's like a maintenance thing, if you're taking something for arthritis and you're going to do it, 2 or 3 times a day. If you're fighting an infection or you're coming down with something, you can do it, 3 or 4 or 5 times a day. Um, and so you can take that powder and you can make a tea with it, or you can throw it in your smoothie, or you can smear it on your peanut butter sandwich. I don't care. You can put it in capsules. Doesn't matter how you get it into your body. The herbs will start working when they get to work. It's like it doesn't matter how you get to your office. You can ride a camel or you can take a car. Once you get there, you do your job.
Yeah.
Or you can make a tincture, which is an alcohol extract. For topical use, you don't even have to worry about dosing. Just slap it on. And you can take the powdered herb and mix it with a little water and make a poultice and put that on a wound, or you can take the fresh plants and grind them up and put it on a wound. That's for topical use. That's easy too. And you can make salves and lotions, and I mean, there's all kinds of things we can make and do. But for wounds, honestly, I just usually take the dry powder and mix it with a little water and slap it on. So.
Okay, and now what if I have a wound that I'm having a hard time getting it to stop bleeding?
Yeah, well, there's some really, really good herbs to help stop bleeding. Yarrow is very good. The flower and leaf are the medicine on that one, and that's a really common plant, at least in the western United States.
Yeah.
Shepherd's purse is a good one. Cayenne pepper is a good one for bleeding. Any of those topically will stop bleeding. The cayenne's a little zingy. Bugleweed too will stop bleeding.
I have to stop you. Cayenne is not a little zingy. Cayenne is a lot zingy. Just call it like it is. It's a lot zingy. Okay. You can keep going.
It's funny because cayenne, I mean, it is zingy in a wound, but it's not a deal breaker. and the reason, interestingly, it's really pretty stimulating initially, but cayenne actually has some chemistry that stops pain. And so it'll be really exciting for a second, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's all gone.
Because it self-arterizes nerves and everything.
Well, I think the biology of it is that the nerves are screaming so loud that they get completely hoarse just after just a minute.
I believe it. Okay.
So anyway,
to stop the bleeding, cayenne or yarrow would both be really good to have, right?
Yep. Yarrow or shepherd's purse, and those are both real common plants.
Okay. Now, what if I have spider bites?
So spider bites can be a serious problem in some species.
Yes.
Hobo spiders and brown recluse spiders have venom very similar to rattlesnake venom, which dissolves tissue, and that's no fun. The good news is that echinacea or black-eyed Susan, either one of those, they're cousins, has a chemical in it that inhibits and shuts down that enzyme that's causing that tissue destruction. And so what I do and I treat a lot of rattlesnake bites in the veterinary practice and a lot of spider bites in the human practice. And what I do is I give them internally echinacea and plantain. It's actually a formula. It's called Venom and Sting. We sell it on the website, but it's equal parts of echinacea, plantain, marshmallow, and dandelion root. And basically, and all those things are sure easy to grow. in your
Yeah.
yard. You know,
Sometimes too late.
uh, the formula that I use is equal parts, and this is a formula I developed. My daughter got bit on the hand by a hobo and got a big circle on their hand where everything was going to die and slough off inside that circle. Went to a doctor and he said, "I'm sure sorry, sweetheart. That's a hobo bite and you're going to slough your palm off." She's a violin performance major, right?
Yeah.
Bad
Little bit
place
of
to
a
slough a
problem.
lot of tissue is from your hand.
Yeah.
Anyway, that wasn't the answer she wanted. Of course, he gave her an antibiotic to, beat up her gut bugs, even though the wound wasn't infected.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got to get something for your $50.
Yeah.
Anyway, she came running home, and I actually developed that formula. This was probably 15 years ago, and we put it on topically and gave it to her internally, like every couple of hours that first day. And in 12 hours, the circle was gone. All the pink was gone. She never lost any tissue, never did anything bad with that. So it's really, those herbs are fantastic for those kinds of issues. And so the echinacea shuts the venom down. The plantain draws venom out of the body. It's really astounding at helping the body eliminate venom. I've used it on a lot of venomous bites. I've used it on blood poisoning cases and sepsis cases where, the body's being really terribly poisoned by something. Plantain's a rock star for that kind of thing. And I have a buddy who's a wilderness survival expert that got bit by a rattlesnake on the hand. He was 4 days walk from nowhere in his loincloth, no cell phone, no nothing. I mean, I'm sort of a wilderness survival guy. I took 30, 16-year-old kids out into the desert for 3 days and gave them each a knife and no food and no beds and no tents and no nothing. And we went out for 3 days.
Oh, fun
But I
for you.
wore pants. My buddy doesn't wear pants and he makes a knife when he gets there. So anyway, he's 4 days from nowhere in a loincloth, and he's climbing up the Snake River Canyon, reached up, got bit by a rattlesnake. And his
Oh.
hand swelled up like a volleyball. It wasn't a dry bite. And he crawled back down to the river bottom, found a big patch of plantain, and chewed it up and made spit poultices, just like Kylene did on yours, Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
And put them on, and he said after a little while they'd turn black and gross, and he'd get them off and chew up some more and put it on. And he ate it and ate it and ate it, and that's all he had.
Yeah.
And the next, in 12 hours, that bite was completely resolved.
That's
So
awesome.
plantain's astounding for venomous bites.
That's the thing I love about this is, hopefully things just always go great, but as life goes, there are challenges and there will be times when we may be on our own, like your
Yeah,
friend in the loincloth, or like us when, we can't get to a doctor, or we can't, we don't have access to medicines.
yeah,
And this is the beauty of this, I think, is this ability to take care of ourselves with things that are growing in our yard, or, things that God planted out there for us.
Yeah, and a lot
yeah,
of it, they're like weeds. And we want to intentionally nurture some of these weeds, right? Plantain
yeah,
will grow crazy in your grass if you don't want it there, right?
yeah,
I have it growing in some of my garden beds intentionally so that it's
yeah.
always there. And the calendula is super easy to grow. But if we don't have the knowledge, it doesn't help us at all.
Yeah,
So,
and it really is. We really are surrounded by medicine and food. And, it'd be really great if you're on a hunting trip. It doesn't have to be the apocalypse.
yeah.
You know,
Sure.
what if you're on a hunting trip 4 days away from cell reception, and you shoot your foot or something dumb? It'd be kind of nice to know what yarrow's for. It's a good antibiotic. It's a good good hemostatic for the bleeding. That's another one that's good for cuts too, not just because of the bleeding, but it's a great antibiotic too. You can do a ton of things with a dozen plants.
See, what a blessing. And having the tinctures, okay, because if I've got them growing in my backyard, that's fantastic. But what about when this happens like in the winter or a time when they're not growing? And that's one of the reasons why I think the tincture is so valuable. So,
Yeah,
any of you are interested in some of Doc Jones' tinctures and some of the stuff that he has, make sure you go and visit his site. We'll leave a link for you. He also has books. And for me, they're great reference books. So let's talk about burns. Say I've
okay.
got somebody who gets burned. How would I take care of that?
So burns, again, the comfrey can be soothing to a burn and can help it heal. Most people use succulent plants like aloe vera, which is fantastic. The gel from aloe vera. The only problem with aloe vera is it won't grow in your yard, you know. So you're not going to find it in the wild in North America, at least anywhere that has winter in North America. Uh,
Could I
but you
use
can grow it. You can grow it in your kitchen, you know.
could I use the gel from like hens and chicks? The litter
Absolutely. And
supplement?
that's what I was going to say. There's some guys that do grow in the winter in Utah and Idaho and other places that know what snow is. Hens and chicks is fantastic.
Okay.
Um, and the Latin name of the genus for hens and chicks is Semper Vivum, always alive. So if you burn your finger on Thanksgiving, go dig in the snowdrift down to your hens and chicks and grab some, and it'll look exactly like it looked in April. You know, you'll have to thaw it out, but it's happy and alive. You know, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
those leaves are small enough you're not going to like slice them and scrape them. Just grind up the whole thing and slap it on.
Okay.
Prickly pear cactus, that's another great one for burns. Just fillet that cactus pad and slap it on the burn. It's really important to get the right side down, you know, but you'll know right away if you do it wrong.
Yeah.
Right away.
Yeah.
Purslane, which is the should be the national plant of the United States. It's growing in every sidewalk crack in North America.
Pretty much is,
For sure.
unless you want to grow it. And
Yeah.
then it's a little
Well,
rough.
have you had a hard time growing it?
In my garden, I think my garden's
Oh,
rich for it.
oh yeah. We grew it in our garden. It got about 3 feet tall and a big bush. It was happy as a clam that somebody loved it. It was funny.
Ooh.
It's usually just laying close to the ground,
Yeah, it
avoiding
is.
lawnmowers.
Yeah.
But that's another plant that's, you know, the leaves are thick little succulent leaves, you know, and grind it up and put it on a burn. It's great.
Okay. And then the same thing if our burn got infected, then we would go to the antibiotic
Yeah,
one, right?
exactly.
So
You're going to do antibiotic stuff. And, you know, you can also we talked about wounds, but if you have other infections, you know, you can also do immune stimulation, right? And
uh-huh.
echinacea is also great for that. That's what most people use it for. They're not using it for rattlesnake bites. They're using it to stimulate their immune systems.
Oh yeah.
But
Oh, and you're
garlic's a good immune stimulant. There's a lot of them that are good immune stimulants.
so how about our insect bites, like our bee sting?
Okay, so there's two nice things about plants with bug bites. One is that they can fix them if you get them. So if you get stung, just like Kylene was putting that spit poultice of plantain on Jonathan's arm, plantain's the best thing in the world for that. And honestly, chew it up and put it on, and that sting's gone pretty quick. That works for bee stings, hornet stings, wasp stings, but it also works for mosquito bites and, you know, annoying little itchy things.
Okay.
My little granddaughter got stung about, I don't know, over 30 times. She got into a hornet's nest,
Oh.
and, you know, I heard this scream, and it wasn't my brother stole my lollipop scream. It was
Yeah.
a real scream.
Help.
And I jumped up and go running out to see what's going on. Her dad comes running in the house with her in his arms. She's about 4. And she was covered with stings all over. You know, she was wearing shorts, and it was summertime, and I grabbed that same venom and sting formula that I use on rattlesnake bites. It's got plantain in it. You know, I grabbed that. Her brother, who's about 12, ran out to the garden to grab plantain, right? Because he's got Jones genes.
We like the
I'm
Joneses.
I'm old and lazy, so I just got it out of the cupboard. But I started dabbing that on, and he come back and started chewing it and putting it on, you know. And I mean, it wasn't 5 minutes, honestly, guys. And she was like, "Can I go out and play?" Like she's
That's
really bored.
awesome.
She's really bored. Can I go out and play? All the
Um,
spots are gone. I can't even see the stings anymore that I put the tincture on, you know.
I love
And so
it.
yeah, go play. But think about what her life would have been like for a week if we hadn't had
oh yeah.
a weed in her yard, you
Right.
know.
And having
So
it in that tincture form is a really good thing. And you can just spritz it on there too with little spritz
yeah,
tops, right?
yeah, that's what I did. Yeah, yep.
Oh, now this is totally not in the theme of this video, but it's a question I have to ask anyway. My rabbits have ear mites. How would you treat that?
So ear mites, I would do an oil infusion for that. You can And I would probably do some calendula and some garlic. Or because if you do a tincture in an ear mite ear, that really stings, you
Yeah.
know. And the other thing is that the oil kills them too. It suffocates them, you know. But yeah, that's another kind of bug bite, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
Calendula and
Yeah.
garlic in an
Yeah,
oil infusion,
yeah,
and you'd probably just keep repeating it, right?
yeah. And just clean their ears out with that. And yeah, you'll have to do it for a while probably.
My poor little bunny. Poor
That's no
little
fun.
bunny. Yeah.
I'll tell you something about bunnies, just as an aside,
Okay.
is you have to be extremely careful using anything with antibiotic properties in bunnies, uh, especially pharmaceuticals, because their whole digestive system is so dependent on bacterial fermentation of food, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, anyway, antibiotics can be life-threateningly dangerous for bunnies if you don't use the right. There's a few that are okay, but some of them are really bad. But
Good to
anyway,
know.
be aware of that.
No.
But we're fine in the plant form when we're feeding them other stuff, right?
The
Like,
plants are way better. I mean, giving her calendula is not going to be an issue.
okay.
Giving her penicillin or something like that would be a big deal.
Okay.
So,
All right.
the other thing with bugs, before we leave bugs, is you can make the bugs not bite you.
Oh, I like that one.
Repellent.
We had a yeah insect repellent. So I don't know how many grandkids I have. I have 15 children. I don't know how many grandkids I have. There's lots of them. They run around a lot. Anyway,
We understand the feeling.
I'm sure they have names. They're really cute, you know, but I don't know, you know. Anyway, we have this, and by the way, most of my 15 kids were adopted, in case anybody wonders if we had a television set. But anyway, we have every year we have this cousin camp thing, and all the cousins come and hang out for a week, and we play and goof around. And anyway, we were having movie night outside, you know, projecting it on a bed sheet, and all of a sudden the mosquitoes came out, and all those kids jumped up and ran to the garden and grabbed lemon balm and start rubbing it on themselves because lemon balm is a great mosquito repellent. And any of the mints that are minty and oily, you know, like peppermint, spearmint, lemon balm, they're great because you smell like a lemon balm plant instead of a mammal, and the mosquitoes don't know what to do with you. You know.
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
That's
I
Anyway,
love that those kids knew that's what they should go get.
right.
That's my thing. I want my kids to know. I want my
yeah,
grandkids to know. And I want them to
yeah,
be able to go out in the yard and know all this stuff that they can eat and just great.
yeah.
Good job.
It has to be a lifestyle thing. You know, I have a little girl little girl, she's 20 something now, but when she was little, she used to get belly aches all the time. And she'd put her out to the garden and grab a handful of parsley and eat the parsley and fix her belly ache. You know, when the kids got sick, they'd go over to the herb cabinet and get some herbs and throw them in a jar and hold their nose and take their herbs, you know. Uh,
That's
so, and if that's not a testimonial, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because some of those formulas are awful.
Some of them
So,
are really bad.
And speaking of a lifestyle, that's kind of what Mama's in the process. And I try and learn a little bit, but she's getting all kinds of herbs in our foods and in our smoothies. And she's
Crazy
taking
lady.
this homegrown herbalist school. And quite frankly, I try and join in when I can because, first of all, there's so much good information, and it's just opened my eyes so wide as to all the things that are out there. And second, you make it humorous. I mean, there's lots of dad jokes and
He's
puns
a
and all
huge
kinds of
fan
stuff
of
that
dad jokes.
I just sit and laugh. And so it's good entertainment and good information. Um, anyway, let's talk just a little bit about what are some of the ways we can use these herbs as far as preserving them. So we get them at some point in time. What are the various ways that we can make them useful, not just now, but down the road?
yeah. So there's basically two ways you can preserve herbs. One is to dry them, and one is to tincture. Um, and drying herbs isn't rocket science. I mean, we go down to the heart, and you know, we harvest a lot of herbs, and we go to the hardware store and we buy that plastic screen door fabric, you know, that you fix your screen door with.
Yeah.
Lay it on some wire shelves, throw the herbs on there, put some fans on them, and go away. And someday we come back and they're dry. I have no idea how long it takes.
So now, let me just ask you, this is out in the sun. Does
No, 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 no.
anything you want to dry
Sunshine
it
is,
slowly then?
yeah. I
Okay,
don't do them outside. I don't dry herbs outside. If you put them in the sun, it destroys them.
that's
They'll be,
yeah, that's what I was
you know,
concerned. Yeah,
and if you do them under the trees, the birds poop on them, right? And so
yeah, not cool.
do it inside. And I don't use any heat. It's just airflow.
Yeah, okay,
You can
just
use a little, you can use those little food dehydrator things. Just turn the heat all the way off and let the air do the work,
okay.
you know, because a lot of herbs, not all of them, some of them could care less about the heat, but some herbs, if anything in the mint family, is going to lose a lot of the volatile oils if you've got any heat on it,
Yeah.
Okay.
So just do it at room temperature with some fans and it'll dry.
So I've been
Um,
having some fun freeze drying some of them. And I know
yeah,
it's not necessary, but some of it, like the calendula, did really well freeze dried. And then,
yeah.
I didn't have to chop it really tiny or anything. And then I just take it,
Mhm.
put it in my soup or my tea,
Yeah. The
which by the
only thing to,
way, it's tea, and he is learning to drink it.
there
Yes.
you go.
Just a little bit at a
Yeah, a
time.
little bit of
Yeah.
baby steps here, but
Put enough honey in there and he'll be all right.
yeah, yeah.
I'll
I,
tell you, the only concern I have about freeze dryers is
Yeah.
temperature. And you can adjust the temperature on those guys.
yeah,
Just make sure it doesn't go over 105 degrees or so.
Okay.
Because if it gets really hot, again, you're beating up some of the plants don't care. But if you got anything with any volatile oils on it at all, you're going to really diminish the quality of that plant.
Good point.
And
Okay.
then the other thing is to make a tincture. And tinctures have so dry herbs have a shelf life of a year or so.
okay.
Um, and it's not like they go bad, but they start getting weaker after that, right? Um, Tinctures are alcohol extracts of herbs, and those, you know, they last. I mean, we'll all be dead before those aren't medicine. You know,
Yeah,
how long? How long is wine wine? You know,
yeah. Well,
so
I remember the first time I got sent to the liquor store to get vodka. I thought, oh, I pushed her right over the edge. She's done. I've pushed her too hard. But she was making a tincture, and tell us a little more how you do that.
so I always do it with dry herbs. You can use fresh plants. The problem with using fresh plants is that some of the plants contain enough water that it dilutes the vodka so that it's now not preservative, right? So I just dry everything that I don't have to think, you know. I mean, if I'm doing pine needles or something that has virtually no water in it, sure, I'll just throw them in, but most of the time I'm drying stuff. And so the ratio that I use is, and my daughter Lucy, she's a naturopath too, and is the general manager for our whole company. I just point at weeds and crack jokes. She's the one who's running everything. Anyway, she put a video on our YouTube channel, the Homegrown Herbalist channel, uh, about how to make a tincture. Lots of detail, but the Cliff Notes version is you take 1 part by weight of dry herb to 5 parts by weight of vodka. Uh,
Okay.
and the reason we use vodka is there's 2 reasons. One is that vodka is usually 80 to 100 proof. Proof is twice the percentage of alcohol. I don't know why they did that. I think it was just to confuse people that don't drink. But
Absolutely.
anyway,
Well, confused me. So okay.
so 80 proof is 40%. 100 proof is 50% alcohol. All right.
Okay.
And that's good because the plant has all kinds of chemicals in it. And some of them are hydrophilic, they like water. Some of them are hydrophobic and they don't like water, you know. So if you use vodka, it's half and half basically. And all the boozers are happy and all the teetotalers are happy and we extract everybody, right?
There we
And it's
go.
just a good solvent for most herbs. If something's really, really oily or resinous, like anything that's a tree sap, frankincense or myrrh or, gumweed, maybe. If you can't wash it off your hands after you handle it because it has no respect for soap and water, then use Everclear, you know. But otherwise, 1 part of whatever alcohol you're using, and when I say alcohol, I always mean booze. I don't mean rubbing alcohol; that'll kill you. I mean
Right.
alcohol people would drink. And I always use vodka, first of all, because the ratio is great. That 80 to 100 proof is great. The other reason everybody uses vodka is because it's cheap,
Yeah.
right? And this is a chemical event, not a social event. If you want to spend a lot of money on real high end whiskey that's $100 a bottle with exactly the same proof, go ahead. But the vodka's $15 for a big bottle.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's cheap and it works.
So
Anyway,
I was reading
that's how you do
something
it.
recently about vinegar, making tinctures with vinegar.
Yes, you can make tinctures with vinegar and you can make tinctures with glycerin. They call them glycerites.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any use for either of those things. And there's two reasons. One is it's not nearly as good of a solvent, so it's not pulling near as much medicine out. And it's not nearly as good of a preservative. So the shelf life's not as good,
Yeah.
especially with glycerin. Glycerin will grow bacteria.
Mm.
So if you put your glycerin bottle in your mouth, you'll contaminate it. And the next time you put it in your mouth, it's got bugs in it, you know? So if you're using a glycerite, pour it into a spoon and then take it, and keep it in the fridge. But vinegars are fine if that's all you got. If my argument always is, if somebody's really opposed to using the alcohol, then just make a tea or use the powdered herb.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do something less effective. A powdered herb is way more effective than a vinegar, because you've got all of it there,
Interesting. I'll have to say about the tincture. So I had made some valerian tincture, and we had somebody staying here who was having a really hard time, and I won't allow alcohol in my home other than the tinctures, right? And so I'm like, here, try this, right? Because he was having a lot of issues, and it was just a teaspoon of this valerian tincture. And about 20 minutes later, I said, "How are you feeling?" He's like, "This is all the benefits of drinking with none of the side effects."
That's right.
I thought that
Because of
was
the valerian.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Valerian. Yeah.
there's power. There's power in
Yeah.
these herbs.
Yeah. It's a very calming, sedating, relaxing herb. It's great for panic attacks.
Yeah.
I used to have a vet assistant that would have full blown big deal panic attacks for no reason. It was all chemical, just something flipped and, she's really, really having a panic attack. And she'd run over and get a little spoonful of valerian and down the hatch. And in 5 minutes, she was fine and back to work. So,
It's powerful. I think sometimes we don't realize the blessings that we have around us, right? And by
yeah.
taking the time now to learn and to, grow and process some of these tinctures and things, or if you can't do it, to go ahead and go on your site and buy them, right? You've done a lot of the work
Yep.
for everybody, so that's
Yep.
an option
That's right.
too.
Yeah.
So
And some people have, and I have religious restrictions that I don't drink at all, but I buy 70 cases of vodka a week. I'm their favorite customer. We back the pickup up to the store and they load it up. Uh,
that Dr. Man.
I went one time and the guy didn't know me and it was this young kid, and he's loaded up. Are you going to drink all of this? And I said, no, I'm pickling a moose in my living room, and taxidermy is so yesterday. We've got a big tank. It's going to be really cool. Anyway, but if a person, my counsel would be, if your religious faith allows your doctor to give you a shot of Demerol when you break your leg, it's okay to take a half teaspoon of echinacea when you have a cold.
Yeah.
It's a medicinal application, and God made all kinds of things that we can use the right way or the wrong way.
Sure.
And I think alcohol is a great solvent and a great preservative for herbs. If you drank enough tincture to have any fun, it would be such a huge overdose of the herb, it'd probably kill you,
Okay, but speaking of that, one of the things about the herbs is that they're so much safer than
They
so
are.
many other things. They just
Yeah,
really are.
they have huge margins of safety.
Yeah.
I just, it's as a veterinarian, if you say any drug, I can tell you the 20 weird things I saw with that drug in my practice, in my life, and I can count on one hand the times that I've seen anything weird with herbs happen. And I've given them to thousands of people. They have very, very broad safety margins. And some don't. Some are much narrower. And guess what? I don't use those ones, you
Right.
know, but for the most part, they're very, very safe.
Well, I think this is just amazing. This has been so much fun. Anything else you want to add to this discussion real quick before we wrap up?
Just I would encourage everybody to learn some plants, and you don't have to know very many. If you knew a dozen plants, you could do all kinds of astoundingly nice things for anything that's likely to come up in your family. You know, I mean, as a naturopath and a veterinarian, so how many species is that? That's a lot. And I'm not just doing bedtime teas and belly aches. I'm doing really scary, weird, hard stuff that the
Right.
doctors have been trying to fix for 20 years and can't. I could do everything I'm doing with 30 or 40 species. You know, and so just do one at a time and make friends with that little rascal and get to know it and grow it in your garden and try it and use it and enjoy it and fall in love with it, and then pick another one, and pretty soon you'll know half a dozen or 10 or 20, and all of a sudden you're an herbalist. I mean, it's not rocket science. People have been doing this for as long as we've been putting plants in our mouth, which is a long time.
Well, I am very grateful for Mama here for her interest, and it's made me more interested. So I'm learning slowly. She's learning more quickly.
And, okay, and I totally have to put a plug in for his class here, the Homegrown Herbalist School of Botanical Medicine. I was a little bit hesitant because for me, at the time I did it, it was $800. And for me, that was a lot of money. And I know that it's more now, right? Everything goes up.
Yeah.
But having actually taken the class and the things that I'm learning, I feel like it was so worth every penny of it, because now I have the power to do so much to take care of my family. And, like we said before, Dr. Jones is just entertaining, but in the class, he also helps you understand physiologically why this works, right? And to me, that's really helpful in trying to decide what I'm going to use and why I'm going to use it. And it makes me so that I'm not afraid to go ahead and step a little bit out of my comfort zone and try some of these things on my poor little victims.
Yeah. And I'm fine. I haven't seen any real problems, but no, I am so grateful that she is doing this, because there's so many things that we can fix on our own if we just have the knowledge. And that's the road that she's going down, and I'm trying to go down that road with her, and I appreciate it. And so there's new plants all the time being introduced in, and my problem is I can't remember all of them and what they do, but she's the expert, and she's got all the resources.
Got my resources.
And so
I have to remember.
I just so much appreciate that. And I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us today, and
You bet.
for
Great
your
pleasure.
wealth of wisdom and the motivation and the humor. I have to throw that in. And now for the question of the day. What medicinal plants are you planning to add into your landscape this year? Share with us. And thanks for being part of the solution.